The Cleveland Cavaliers select Evan Mobley.
Has been a historical franchise in this league for years.
We have a trade to announce. The Boston Celtics select Jason Tatum.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Trevor Lane here. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, on Instagram at TrevorLaneNBA. Joined by Keith Smith. Find him at KeithSmithNBA over on the Twitter machine. Okay, let's talk a little Clippers and Paul George. A little bit surprising. We got the news not long ago that Kawhi Leonard might be back, that he's ahead of schedule. And now we're starting to hear that Paul George, with the UCL injury, could potentially be done for the season, and that the Clippers might already be of the mindset, surprisingly, that they're going to go into this trade deadline as a seller, looking to move off of some pieces and not worry about winning games this year, which to me, if they do go down that path, that probably suggests, well, we don't see Kawhi Leonard come back. Keith, I'm a little bit of whiplash here because it felt like everything was starting to pick up for the Clippers. They got a big win over the Denver Nuggets, an improbable one. I think that was just last night, a big 25-point comeback. And now here we are getting this report that they may actually be looking to kind of pack it in for the season.
Yeah, the Denver Nuggets did their best Boston Celtics impersonation by blowing a massive fourth quarter lead and running offense like they have never seen each other nor played together before. But yeah, the Clippers, they're 21-21, eighth in the West. So they're right there in that play-in mix with really Denver, Dallas, Lakers, Minnesota. It's probably the group there. I'll cut it at Minnesota on that group, because then your next tier is kind of Portland, San Antonio, Sacramento, New Orleans for that 10th and final spot. I don't know. Dallas is starting to pull away now. They're starting to play pretty good. They've got 6 straight wins. They're 4 games above 500. They've pulled away a little bit.
They beat Chicago.
Beat Chicago. Not a blow up, but
they were
handily. They were in control the whole way. And then Denver, I know this is a Clipper section, but Denver Woj reported I think it was yesterday, they think they're going to get Jamal Murray and Michael Porter back on the court before the end of the season. So if they do that, the Nuggets I think maybe they're the team we wait all year, but I'm just kind of waiting on the Nuggets to rip off like a 5 or 6 game win streak and really stabilize everything and look pretty good. Right. Beyond that, you're not catching anybody above you. Memphis has won 10 in a row. They're now tied with the Jazz for third in the West in terms of being games back.
And Utah's lost 3 in a row, so that's part of that.
Yep. And Donovan Mitchell, kind of letting his teammates have it, as we talked about already. Suns and Warriors are clearly not catching them. So if you're the Clippers, you kind of start to think, or what's our end game here? Now, I think if Paul George was healthy, we can get Kawhi back on the floor. We can go in kind of what we all thought the Lakers would be last year as, man, that's the 7th, 8th seed nobody wants to see because you're loaded with talent, a ton of guys who can really play. Or you look at it and say, you know what, even with that, we probably don't have enough to beat the Suns or the Warriors or the Jazz or maybe even the Grizzlies. I don't know why you'd think that about the Jazz. Clippers have had quite the success against them, but it's too hard of a road for us. Let's just keep Paul George out if he's, going to have to really bust to get back. Keep Kawhi out. We'll move some of these guys, because what they could do is with guys like Eric Bledsoe, Serge Ibaka, you could move those guys out in trades. You're not going to get a ton back, but maybe you get guys who are slightly more useful for into next year. For your team. And that could be how you could really start to kind of spin this forward. It's different from the Trailblazers, who we talked in our last segment of they bottom it out and really start to sell off fully. This isn't a sell-off for the Clippers. It's probably more of a, hey, Eric Bledsoe, similar value type player, but somebody who's under contract for a couple more seasons. That works for us because that's when George and Leonard will be fully up to speed, and that's where we go. So that could be the direction you're looking if you're the Clippers. And then maybe you could do, a sell-off of sorts of, guys like maybe Luke Kennard, Marcus Morris, maybe even Nicholas Batum. If that's where you wanted to go, you could go that direction too.
Well, and this is all stemming from a report from Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report. And it is interesting. He does mention Marcus Morris as a guy that they
Mhm.
could look to move on from as well. And their focus will be hanging on to some of their younger guys. Terrence Mann was listed as one of the guys that they would not part with. But again, this
Yep.
is such an interesting turn considering we were thinking, oh, the Clippers, they're going to get Paul
Yeah.
George back. They're going to get Kawhi Leonard back. They're going to be that team nobody wants to play. And now here we are talking about them perhaps being a surprise seller. And we're going to do that pretty soon. We're going to break down buyers and sellers on this show and heading into the trade deadline once things start to materialize a little bit more, once it's a little more solidified. But I think if we move the Clippers over to the seller side of it, it could change the entire look of the Western Conference in terms
Sure.
of what does the bottom of the table look like? What do teams at the top do? Because you could even imagine a scenario where Kawhi comes back, Paul George comes back, and the teams that are at the top could do a little bit of maneuvering to try to get out of the path of playing
Yeah.
a full strength Clippers team. But if that threat isn't there because the Clippers are saying, hey, we came into this season, and this is again in the Fisher report, they came into this season thinking this is going to be kind of a gap year for them. It's going to be a down season and they're going to come back next year. Maybe that takes away some of the incentive to avoid this Clippers team.
Yeah, it absolutely could. These are the types of fascinating looks when you really get into it. Of all right, where is this team going to go? There's different paths you could go here. Morris, very tradable contract, 15.6 million. That's something that just about every team in the league can get to with relative ease. We've talked a lot about how hard it is for the Lakers to match salary in a trade. That's a number they could get to very easily. Now that'd be weird. They don't often do trades like that between the Clippers and the Lakers, but I mean,
The last
Marcus
one they did
Morris-
was disastrous.
yeah, yeah. That guy's still hanging around.
Yes.
With the Clippers too, and playing okay. But Morris, man, he would really fill a need for the Lakers as a forward with size that can score, defend a little bit, do some stuff. So, maybe they could that be where you wanted to throw the Horton Tucker and Nunn package? And if you're the Clippers, you're looking at it and saying, yeah, that's not bad because then we'll have those guys into next year, and that'll help us, with next year's roster bounce. If we can move Bledsoe, and then we move it. So those are the kind of conversations I think you have to have if you're the Clippers, and kind of see where it goes, because you could really set yourself up well to again kind of say, all right, whatever this year is, and we'll figure that out as we go. Maybe they don't even fall out of the play-in, but we're not going to push overly hard. The good news is, they said Paul George, I think they said 2 to 3 weeks. There'd be an update at the time of his the injury announcement. So that's plenty of time in advance of the trade deadline. They should have a pretty good understanding of, is he coming back? When is he coming back? Is he not coming back at all? And then you make your decisions from there.
And there's one team out there that is certainly on the side of pack it in, Clippers, call it a season, trade some pieces away, and that, surprise, surprise, is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the Clippers' first-round pick. So that could be kind of a ripple effect here, that where they're the draft pick they get from the Clippers. If the Clippers decide, hey, we're gonna move off some pieces, we're gonna get ready for next year, that type of thing. We're not going to rush back Paul George or Kawhi. The Oklahoma City Thunder may benefit.
And they own that free and clear with no protections too. So that's another thing you have to really look at as you get into this stuff, because that is really important. But that's also a reason why if you're the Clippers, I don't know if I want to fully bottom this thing out, because there's no reason to. We don't have our picks. So yeah, there's a lot of intrigue there. But like a couple other teams, we'll know better here in the next couple weeks.
All right, little incident. I guess not little, because these guys are massive human beings, but incident between Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Montrezl Harrell, former Lakers, both played together with the Lakers last year. Punches thrown in the locker room last night for the Washington Wizards. Not a great scene. Look, I guess here's the thing. Like, we're going to react to this, and obviously any type of physical altercation, people are going to react to. But I'd also caution that these guys are around each other a lot. Right, a lot, and sometimes guys can just get on each other's nerves, and you almost get kind of like a sibling type of dynamic going on there. I don't think this means these guys hate each other or anything like that, but it is still noteworthy and certainly not a good look around the franchise.
Yeah, it doesn't always get to throwing punches.
Very
Like
true.
that's where that's a step above. Arguments every single week. You see a couple guys will get into it and argue, and
Yes.
especially when guys have been together for a little bit and it's a tense situation and that. And Washington is a team, they'd slipped under 500. They've won a couple in a row to get back above the 500 mark. So you do kind of look at it and say, all right, well, where are well, what is happening here with that? And my guess is this will be probably nothing. They both played their normal amount of minutes in the second half of that game after, getting into it at halftime. So there wasn't even any kind of discipline there. And we haven't heard any more stories today about, anybody's hurt or, asking for a trade or, Washington has familiarity with things going really sideways in that locker room. So, Javaris Crittenton, anyone? So we'll hopefully that's all it is they got into it and everything's good and off we go. So they are playing tonight. So my guess is at some point someone will be asked about it. Let's do a positive Wizards note. Thomas Bryant gonna play tonight or available to play. First time in over a year for him since he tore his left ACL last season. That team's got more bigs than they know what to do with. That screams making a trade there because even a lot of their bigs aren't even guys who can really play the three either. So let's see what happens with the Wizards. But Thomas Bryant came back, so that's good news for them.
I should also mention, I'm sure it's coincidence, but the Washington football team was also the one that had a couple of players throwing punches at each other on their sideline. So maybe it's the location. Maybe that was the
tense city, Trevor. It's a tense city.
That's what it is. That's what it is. All right. Let's finish off though with a positive here. The Cavs. Kobe Altman, they are rewarding him with a contract extension. This has been one of the feel-good stories in the NBA this season. A team that everybody expected to be terrible. I expected them to be terrible this season. I think just about everybody did. And here they are right in the thick of things in the playoffs. They've been performing way better than anybody expected. Evan Mobley has been tremendous. It's been a lot of fun. And so they are rewarding Kobe Altman with that extension. And it makes perfect sense given the way things have gone for them. And good to see.
And he's getting the bump to president of basketball operations from general manager. That is kind of notable because that would presume he'll then have the ability to hire a general manager under him, which is big. We're seeing more and more teams go to this. It's in the end, it really matters of who is the final decision maker.
Exactly.
I mean, I think Masai Ujiri's title now is something like Lord and Emperor of all things Raptors or something like that. But I mean, as it should be, right? But it's what it feels like. It's ultimately who's the final decision maker. In this case, it's Kobe Altman, and will be for years to come. We talked a lot about it with the Orlando Magic, why these things are important. Cavs are clearly ahead on the rebuild train. But again, now what you're going to be looking to do for Kobe Altman is add pieces to what you've built over the next, whether it's the trade deadline in the next off season or whatever. And what you can make as part of your selling point there is, hey, I want to bring this guy in, and then that guy and his agent know I'm signing with the team where this guy's likely to be here for at least the duration of my contract or most of it. And it's not going to be one of these, this guy's on his way out the door and the next guy in's like, well, I didn't sign him, so I can, trade this guy away with ease. So yeah, it's I think it's, this is, beyond being amazing news for Kobe Altman and himself and his staff. And because a lot of times that's what's forgotten. A lot of times then the staff gets contracts that run a little longer, these guys. So this is great news all around for the Cavs, and well deserved for a team that has, really, really played good basketball this year.
Yeah, I mean, right now sitting in the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, but certainly not out of the running for the 4 seed, maybe even the 3 seed. I mean, they're right there. They still have the best point differential in the conference. I mean, who would have thought that here we are, we're at the halfway point in the season. Who would have thought the Cavs would have the best point differential in the entire Eastern Conference?
And the 4th best in the entire NBA.
Amazing.
Just crazy. Now, one thing I will say is got to keep winning games.
Yes.
They're only 3 games out of being completely out of the play-in and all together because you've got a bunch of teams kind of, creeping up there. So, hey, I don't think they'll fall out that far because it's a lot of teams you'd have to fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
But keep winning games and you'll be there. Let's see, maybe a team catches them and they're in the play-in. But even a trip in the play-in would be a huge step forward for the Cavs this year.
Yeah, 4-6 in their last 10, which is the worst record of anybody. Well, it ties the Brooklyn Nets for worst record of the teams that are above the play-in line. So that's not great. But again, this team has definitely outperformed their expectations. So good stuff for them. And I wanted to make sure that we finished on a positive story like that. Keith, halfway through the season, here we are, and the trade deadline coming up quick. We've got so much more to break down, everybody. We can't wait. And man, it feels like every day there's a new trade rumor, something else coming out.
Yeah, and today the intention was not to record this late. We had some stuff going on that pushed us a little later, and it worked out because we got some news that broke a little bit later, and we're able to react to it more fresh than tomorrow. So that's fun too. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff planned for the next few weeks, 4 weeks from tomorrow to the trade deadline. So that's really kind of wild stuff that we're almost there. And then we've got a lot of stuff. We've also at some point in there we got to pick our all-star teams.
That's right.
Because we got to do that on both sides. So we've got a whole lot of stuff coming for you guys, both playing stuff and then of course reacting to all the latest news and notes around the league.
That's right. So make sure you are subscribed to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Turn on notifications. And don't forget to follow us wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody, stay safe and see ya.